Hey, Dr.
You?
Dan.
How are you? Hi, nice to meet you,
Fantastic.
Charlie, and
Yeah,
thank
you
you
as well.
for joining us and teaching us about such an important part of our health and wellness. Charlie, I'm going to start with you introducing yourself. Like, tell me, Charlie, how did you become the person who you are today?
You have like a lot of experience.
Oh, thank you.
How did you get into performance coaching?
How did you become passionate about exercise?
Yeah.
How did you get into it?
Really, my experience was kind of similar to yourself through sports. I was a basketball player all growing up. My interest was first and foremost like improving my own performance. And
Yeah.
then I started working with my brother and his friends. I'm like, oh, I really like this kind of training others aspect as well. Like, okay, like what things can I do to see a noticeable improvement in how I play? I trained myself and my brother and his friends all through high school. Once I got into college, I was training our basketball team. And by the time I was a senior in college, I was training guys on the football team, soccer team, training a whole bunch of teams on campus.
How young were you at that point?
At that point, when I started college, I was 18 going on 19. And like this is a thing that I want to do. I started doing internships with different sports performance places and personal training places. I thought this is the coolest thing ever because I put in effort over here and I see a result over there. I'm like, this is awesome. So I got to work with a number of really high level professional athletes like Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. That was a ton of fun. By the time I finished my senior year of college, I knew that like I wanted to go into sports performance. The first job that I had in Chicago was as a personal trainer. And at that gym, there were two MAT specialists and they introduced me to muscle activation techniques. And so then I started going down that avenue. And that really completely transformed my career as far as just like how I started thinking about exercise, the role of muscles. I started taking courses called resistance training specialist. That really transformed my understanding of like how to create exercise for people. And then from there, I went into graduate school to do a master's program in exercise science. And that really gave me a background in the biochemistry, physiology, cellular biology, the effects of exercise and how it actually changes us at a cellular level and how it will help to prevent and reverse disease and chronic illness. So not working like specifically with athletes, working just kind of what we'd call like general population, like non-athletes, but still trying to like have that like athlete mindset and kind of working with them in that way, using exercise to get healthier.
I saw that your last episode of your podcast was about starting on training when you're like 50 or 60.
Yeah. No,
That's
thanks so
really
much for checking that
interesting.
out.
What would you say are some of the differences between starting training your body at 50 or 60 years old as opposed to always having been training since you were a kid? How do you approach that?
Great question. Okay, so I think the first thing that people who are in their 50s and 60s and they're just starting out, they need to understand is that their body will get stronger. Their body does have the ability to get into better condition. Even if they're like, wow, it's been 10, 20, 30 years or more since I've worked out or I've never worked out, it's not too late to start. If you did exercise when you were younger, maybe you played high school athletics or, you exercised a little bit in your 20s, your body, it's going to respond differently than it once did because in your 50s and 60s, your body's ability to tolerate stress from a physical standpoint, it's just going to be lower than it is when you are in your teens and 20s. Your workouts are not about like trying to burn as many calories as you can during the hour. Today's workout is all about setting you up to come back and work out again tomorrow. And the reason why that's such an important concept is because if you can keep using today's workout to set you up to come back and work out again tomorrow, then you will always have the opportunity and be creating the opportunity for yourself to come back and work out again the next day. Now, that does not mean that your workouts need to be easy. In fact, your workouts should be challenging you. The challenge is what's going to create the change. However, you need to be able to keep coming back and keep doing these things long term. That's how you're really going to get the health benefits. So understand that, yes, your workouts need to be challenging, but they should not be sacrificing your ability to come back and exercise again the next day. You're going to be able to keep working out day after day after day, and you're not going to feel that achy soreness feeling that so many of us get caught up into because you're not going to be thinking, oh, I need to go all out as hard as I can today. Because in your mind, you're like, well, I need to come back and work out again tomorrow. I need to come back and be ready to be able to do that today. And so that in and of itself is just going to stop you from like over exercising, viewing your workouts through that that lens, that's a huge step for people. What I started noticing about myself is that even though I could perform really well, my body was breaking down
How
every
young
morning.
were
And
you at that point?
I was 23 at this point. I couldn't stand up out of bed in the morning without the entire right side of my body tightening up from my foot all the way up to my neck. It didn't matter how much I stretched or rolled or massaged or whatever, my body just felt horrible the whole time. Not only that, but when I was 9, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And so I was noticing that in my early 20s, my control of my type 1 diabetes, even though I was exercising all the time, even though I was eating best and everything like that, my blood sugar levels were constantly all over the place. So I was kind of at this crossroads where I was like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be exercising. My identity is tied to somebody who is strong and athletic, but how I'm exercising isn't helping me in a lot of ways. It feels like it's making me worse. Either I'm going to have to stop exercising and lose that identity of being, strong and athletic, or I need to keep exercising and, risk injuring myself, but I get to keep that identity. Well, I was so tied to that identity, I said, I'm just going to keep exercising and just kind of push through all the pain and tightness anyways. Fortunately, I had a couple of interventions come my way before I had any kind of really major injury happen. One was this muscle activation techniques education course, and the other is the resistance training specialist education course. But both of these courses really taught me not only the importance of muscles for our health, for our mobility, for our overall well-being, but also like how to design exercise specific for our bodies. Because I always thought, well, a squat is a squat is a squat, a deadlift is a deadlift is a deadlift, but never really understanding how to like create an exercise for somebody's body. So these courses really helped me understand that. And I started changing how I was exercising and changing my focus when I was exercising. Instead of thinking about like the weights going up and down, really focused on mind muscle connection and squeezing my muscles. And all of a sudden, all the symptoms I was feeling of like tightness and just, like I was about to injure myself, they started to go away. I'm like, okay, cool. This is like, I'm feeling myself getting stronger, but without all the negative repercussions I was experiencing before.
What is this exercise that you're...
So it's still like regular exercise, but the focus of it is different.
How are these trainings different than what you were already doing?
In your personal training certification, you learn, okay, when you do a squat, everybody's knees are supposed to bend this way and everybody's hips are supposed to bend this way. That is like the gold standard squat. What these courses did is say, no, that gold standard is irrelevant. Instead, what you need to do is match the exercise to the person's body. How do their knees move? How do their hips move? And then challenge their body based on how their body is designed, everything like that. It was
You can do a full squat, then you can do like whatever your version of that squat.
Exactly. And so that really was premise of like, oh, everything that I had learned about exercise was all about like trying to match these external standards, when in fact, exercise is all about trying to match your internal standards, your internal function. And from there, that's when I kind of married the two and said, okay, look, if you are wanting to, really help prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes, prevent and reverse various forms of dementia, heart disease, insulin resistance, everything like that, these are the things that you need to be doing from an exercise perspective. And this is how you match your exercise to your body so you don't get injured along the way. And that's the business that my wife and I now run, is helping people exercise to improve their health in ways that feel good for their body so they don't get injured, they can continue to get stronger, and it stays convenient for their life.
And you mentioned something that's really important. How would you explain mind-muscle connection to someone who maybe does train but has never heard of it? And how did it impact your performance or your recovery?
Yeah. So the cool thing about the mind-muscle connection is that truly can amplify all the results you're getting from your workout. When it comes to strength, to hypertrophy, to like building endurance, a large part of that is how much signal is being sent from your central nervous system to your muscle cell. The more signal you can get going from your central nervous system to your muscle cells, the faster all these biochemical processes will happen. That'll help your muscle cells grow. That'll help you produce more mitochondria. That will increase your strength. And one of the easiest ways to get more signal going to those muscles is to just focus on squeezing the muscles that you're trying to work while you're doing the exercise. So if you're doing a biceps curl and instead of thinking about the weights going up and down, instead put your mind right in your bicep, focus on squeezing your biceps, and then have the entire purpose of that exercise to be just connecting with your biceps, challenging your biceps, feeling those muscles squeeze the entire time you're doing the exercise. It's not about the weight going up and down 10 times. It's about challenging and connecting with your muscles. And just that alone will allow you you to get better results from your workouts because you're going to be getting more signal to those muscles. It's called having an internal focus of attention. Now, the beautiful thing about that, you asked about recovery, is last night, my wife and I sat down, threw on a TV show, and we had a bowl of popcorn between us, okay? Now, if you've ever had like a giant bowl of popcorn in front of you and you've zoned out watching the TV show, about 15 minutes in, you're going to look down and you're like, how did I just eat that entire bowl of popcorn? But imagine, instead of distracting yourself with the TV show, that you are really focused on eating every single kernel of popcorn. You're probably going to eat way less. You're going to be like, know exactly when your body's satiated, be like, okay, yeah, I'm good. Like, I don't need to eat anymore tonight. So often when we go to work out, we distract ourselves with the music and the energy and the class and everything else. And we're distracting ourselves from what our body is telling us. And so we get to the end of our workout, we're like, what just happened? And why do I feel so lousy? Instead, when you focus on squeezing your muscle, it's like being really mindful while you're eating that popcorn. You're good. You don't need to do another rep. You need to change how you're doing this exercise. You need to either slow it down or change the amount of motion that you're using. Because if you keep blowing through this, if you keep trying to, block it out, by the end of the workout, we're going to be screaming at you, hey, you got to stop this. So you end up recovering from your workouts way faster, which is how the workout that you do today actually sets you up to come back and work out again tomorrow, because we just established mind-muscle connection. We're getting better results, but we're recovering faster as well.
Are you saying that it doesn't matter how much weight you're lifting, but just connecting with the fact that you're lifting?
That's a great question. So weight is irrelevant. What matters is challenge, fatigue, and how long it takes you to get to a place of fatigue. If you take a 20-pound dumbbell and you're not thinking about it at all and you're just flinging it up there, you're going to be able to do the 20 pounds. But if you grab a 5-pound dumbbell and you really focus on squeezing your biceps as hard as you can the entire time you're doing it, it's going to feel way more challenging. Your biceps are going to get way more fatigued. Your body doesn't know the amount of weight that you're using. What it knows is how challenging it is for your tissues and how long you do that challenge for. So the name of the game is you do an exercise that takes it to a place where you get pretty darn fatigued, almost to a point of like momentary muscle failure, where you feel like you can't do another rep because it's so challenging, it's so fatiguing. We usually try to say, oh, well, I need to use more weight in order to do that. You don't need to use more weight. If you use more focus, you can reduce the weight, which will actually reduce the stress on your joints, but you'll be able to get your muscles to that same super high level of fatigue.
I have to have people listen to you, because I know so many people who are just so tied to the amount of weight that they lift, and they usually come back with injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What kind of work do you do? So is somebody who gets injured and then they hire you and then you tell them how to not get injured?
Yeah, great question. So I work predominantly with people that have joint or muscle-based issues. It can be muscle tightness. It can be like a specific thing like knee arthritis. It can be like a disc herniation. It can be something like plantar fasciitis. And these issues are either keeping them from exercising or making exercise really uncomfortable. And so I help them be able to exercise in ways that feel good for their body and that they're able to keep coming back to. So those are predominantly the things that I work with. It's not always like that. I do work with some high-level athletes, but the majority of my practice is people who have joint or muscle-based issues that are either keeping them from exercising or making exercise really uncomfortable.
You have also said how to make exercise easier for you, and where it's not like a big job where you have to take like this 3-hour chunk from your extremely busy day and then stretch. It's like 3 hours. Like, who's going to get that in our lifestyle, So how do you tell somebody who's super busy, how can somebody without having fancy equipment or ability of hiring somebody as amazing as you? What are the simple things?
So I got 3 steps for you. Okay. Step number 1 is you first have to decide that you're going to exercise. The biggest thing that I think it holds people back from exercising is this indecision or this option around exercising. As soon as you make the decision that you're going to exercise, then you remove the possibility that you're not going to exercise. Okay. So now your only option is to exercise. So that's step 1. Step 2 is you need to start moving consistently throughout your day. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time. Every 60 to 90 minutes, stand on up, move around 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time. This is low-level physical activity. You're not breathing harder. You're not sweating. You're not feeling fatigued while you're doing it. You're just standing up and moving around, but you're doing it consistently throughout your day. This is going to do 2 things for you. Number 1, it's going to start telling your brain that this getting up and moving around thing is important because you're doing it consistently throughout your day. And when your brain thinks something is important, it's going to start seeking out and is going to start seeing more opportunities to do this. It's like when you look up a new car online and you're like, that's the car that I want. And you go drive to the dealership and you see like 7 of them on the way there. You're like, where are all these cars? It's like, no, you told your brain that thing's important. So it's going to start standing out to you. The same thing happens when you start getting up and moving around consistently. You are telling your brain that the thing is important. This getting up and moving around. So your brain is going to start seeking out and start seeing more opportunities to do that. The second thing that it's going to do for you is it's going to help to prevent and reverse insulin resistance. Okay. Insulin resistance is brought on by large chunks of time of being sedentary. So if you can break up your large bouts of being sedentary by getting up and moving consistently throughout your day, that will do wonders as far as preventing and reversing insulin resistance, which is a precursor condition to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, various forms of cancer, and various forms of dementia. Just stand up, get up, and move around a little bit, all right, multiple times throughout the day. Then once you start seeing and understanding that, oh, I do have the opportunity to get up and move consistently throughout your day, then you start expanding upon that with what we call little workouts. Little workouts take 15, 20, 25 minutes. But there are 3 musts that need to be included with your little workouts in order to get them done consistently. Must number 1 is they must be convenient. Okay. What this means is you can't be driving to a gym that's 30 minutes out of your way to do a 20-minute workout, drive 30 minutes back, and think that's going to be sustainable for the long term, because it's not. Your little workouts are quick, so they must be convenient. Number 2 is they must be planned. So you can't show up at the gym knowing you have 20 minutes to work out, spend the first 10 minutes trying to figure out what that thing is that you're going to do. You need to know exactly what it is you're going to do from the moment you arrive. So it's like, I got 20 minutes. I know exactly what I'm doing. Must number 3 is they must be focused. If you're working out at home and you hear, the laundry timer, the dryer ding, you can't be thinking, okay, during my next rest time, I'm going to start, folding laundry, because you can eat up 3, 5, 10 minutes of your workout time. Your workout time is going to be shot. All right. So they must be focused. Your little workouts, they must be convenient. They must be planned, and they must be focused. 15, 20, and 25 minutes, cardio, resistance training, total body. Now, I'm a huge proponent of people doing strength training, people doing resistance training. Okay. Again, this does not mean that you need to be maxing out using like as heavy of a weight as you can, but you do need to be challenging yourself. You do need to be going to a high degree that feels like a 7, 8, maybe 9 out of 10 from an exertion standpoint of like, I could maybe do 1 or 2 more reps. Like, okay. And if you want to go beyond that to the 10 out of 10 place, awesome. Just kind of work your way into it.
What do you think is the total amount of exercise that I should do? How long should I do in a day?
So it depends on the results that you're wanting to get. From a strength training standpoint, I think if people can consistently do their strength training 20 to 30 minutes at a time, that is awesome. If you want to go upwards to 40 to 45 minutes, fantastic. I don't think there are too many people out there that really need to be pushing to like an hour of strength training or more. Okay. 20 to 30 minutes, staying within that sweet spot, because you're going to be able to recover better and you're going to be able to do it more frequently and you're going to be able to stick with it longer term. And that's going to glean you better results. Now, from the standpoint of reducing inflammation in your body and from increasing your antioxidant production systems within your body, doing some kind of steady state cardio for 45 to 60 minutes, that seems to be kind of the minimum requirement that is necessary to get those effects. Now, I'm not saying that people need to be doing 45 to 60 minutes of cardio at a time, but if that is a result that they're interested in doing, then that appears to be the kind of minimum amount of cardio at one time that needs to be done, that 45 to 60 minute standpoint. That being said, if somebody's doing, again, 15 to 30 minutes of cardio at a time, I think that's a really nice spot where people can be, they can return to it, and they can sustain it long term.
Recently, there was this thing about high intensity interval training. And actually, there was an article in New York Times about it where they said that when you go for a walk, you don't even have to do like a seriously brisk walk. One way to reduce inflammation is to just do like a nice leisurely kind of walk where you're trying to connect with the sounds around you. And what's your experience regarding that? Like, if I don't have 30 minutes, can I do 5-minute high intensity training?
So short answer is yes. Yes, you can. From a results perspective, both performance and health-wise, here's the rule of thumb that I go by. The more muscles contract, the more frequently they contract, the more intensely they contract, and the longer they contract for, the more health results you're going to get and the better performance results you're going to get. So if you're doing something like high-intensity interval training, where you're getting a lot of muscles to contract really hard, then there's a great opportunity to get great health results and great performance results. But the caveat to that is as long as you are not creating muscle damage. As soon as muscle damage starts to happen, as soon as the exercise becomes inappropriate for your body, muscle damage creates more inflammation. Muscle damage dampens the function of insulin receptors. Muscle damage decreases the ability to build muscle. Muscle damage decreases the ability to build mitochondria, which, are your energy producers, so you don't get as fit from doing the exercise. So if you're going to do something that's really super intense, you need to make sure that it is staying within the realm of not damaging your muscles and staying within the realm of being appropriate for your body. Because if you're like, hey, I got 10 minutes, so I'm going to go all out, but in going all out, you're like, I'm too sore to work out the next day or the day after that, I'd say just do something that's not all out, but do it for those 10 minutes and then be able to come back and do it again the next day. Now, from a walking perspective, if somebody's just starting off, again, standing up and moving and walking consistently throughout your day is awesome. But you need to understand is as soon as walking no longer becomes challenging, your body has no reason to change. Your body changes in response to challenge in terms of growing new blood vessels, improving the health and function of your brain, regrowing certain areas of your brain that have to do with memory and everything like that. That is going to respond to challenge. Keeping your muscles as fit and as strong, that is a response to challenge. So if you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for the same, leisurely 15-minute walk that I always do, and it used to feel kind of difficult, but I only have 15 minutes, it no longer feels difficult anymore. It's like, okay, if you're doing something for 15 minutes, which is fine, but you still need to make sure that it's challenging, because if you're not challenging your body, then your body's not receiving any signal to change.
About the 10,000 step thing.
So here's why 10,000 steps is important, and here's where everybody gets it wrong. 10,000 steps is important because in order to get 10,000 steps, you're going to have to move consistently throughout your day. Where everybody gets it wrong is they count all the steps that they do during their workout, and they say, oh, well, I got, 5,000 steps during my workout, and I got 5,000 steps, during the rest of my day. It's like, no. The steps during your workout, they literally do not matter. What matters from a tracking steps perspective is how much you're moving outside of your workout. Because what's important about that is, again, the prevention and reversal of insulin resistance. And that is a sedentary based issue. And so if you go for a 60-minute run every single day, but you do it in the morning, but then you sit at breakfast, you sit on your way to work, you sit at work, you sit over lunch, you sit in the afternoon, you sit on your way home, you sit at dinner, and then after all that sitting, you sit down and watch some TV before lying down in bed. You have 60 minutes of activity followed by 23 hours of being sedentary. And it's a 23 hours of being sedentary, the consecutive hours, that's the big issue. So if you're going to go for your 60-minute run, great. Don't count those steps towards your 10,000. Use your step counters to count the number of steps that you do outside of your workout. That is the way to use your step counters, where it actually becomes effective.
We know that often people that have 9 to 5, maybe office jobs, maybe they are tired, they do not want to work out. What do you recommend that they can be on the chair because maybe they cannot stand up on their jobs or whatever?
So my first recommendation is, if you can, try to exercise before you go to work. Try to wake up, a little bit earlier in the morning and exercise then. This is going to do two things for you. One, it's going to make sure that your workouts get done, because you're not waiting till the end of your day when you're too tired to work out or too busy to work out. This can be a shift for a lot of people. It doesn't mean you have to be up at 5 or 5:30 or 6, but try to exercise earlier in your day, because then you're going to get it done. Number two is, by exercising earlier in the day, from a brain health perspective, your workouts prime your brain to grow, prime your brain to improve its function. But you still have to challenge your brain. You still have to use your brain after that. So if you do the priming of the brain by exercising earlier in the morning, then you get the entire rest of your day to challenge and use your brain. And there you're going to get better brain boosting results. In fact, there's a very interesting study done not too far from here, where they introduced at a high school something called 0-hour PE, where the kids would actually come in before school and they would do their physical education class, and then they would go to the rest of their classes throughout their school day. And at the end of the semester, the kids who did 0-hour PE had noticeably better reading comprehension and test scores, like improvements of those, versus kids that would do, their PE middle of the morning or in the afternoon. Because by priming your brain first thing in the morning and then using your brain the rest of the day, you get to take advantage of that priming. If you're exercising in the evening, number one, kudos to you for getting it done, but you're not going to get as much from a brain health benefit perspective, because you're not going to be tasking your brain with as much after you do the priming of it, which is exercise. Now, throughout the day, I would recommend set your phone timer to go off every 45 to 60 minutes. Now, if you can't stand up and like move, at some point they have to let you go to the bathroom, right? So just stand up and every hour, walk to the bathroom, refill your water, come back, sit back down. But set your phone timer. That will interrupt you enough to be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I need to go and do that. Then use the fringes of your time, meaning when you first arrive at the office, park farther back in the parking lot or walk a couple laps around your office building and then take the stairs instead of the elevator. When you get to your office, walk a couple lengths down and back in the hall. Before you go to lunch, walk a lap around your office and then go to lunch. When you get back from lunch, walk a lap around your office and then sit down again. So there are these transition times and there are these fringes where you can get a little bit of physical activity in, where it's not a 10-minute workout, but it's at 3 to 5 minutes that you're just moving consistently throughout your day.
What are your impression about yoga? Do you recommend or teach any breathing exercises?
I think yoga can be very useful for a lot of people for a number of different reasons. The trap that I think people fall into with yoga is when they really like yoga and they're really good at it, oftentimes that's the only thing they do. And just like we were saying, hey, your body responds to challenge. If you're all about, hey, like I'm just, yoga is my recovery, it's my relaxation time, it's, something where I can connect with my body and feel my body move. I can move through all different areas. That's awesome. But when we're talking about strength, brain function, we're talking about cardiovascular health, prevention of chronic disease, making sure that as you age, that you maintain your health and function, you have to do something that is more challenging and challenging to the muscles. Certainly there are strength components to yoga, no doubt about that. But for the majority of people, we need something that's more than what the strength components of yoga provide. It's not to minimize that, but you have to understand that if you are wanting to maintain your strength, you truly have to challenge your strength. Yoga can be part of your routine, but it should not be your whole routine. Breath work, I love doing breath work. It has made a huge impact in my life. I feel like it allows me to connect with something that's bigger than myself. Breath work has been really important for me in that regard. When I'm exercising, and specifically when I'm doing my cardio, I try to incorporate a little bit where I try to only breathe through my nose for most of the time when I'm doing my cardio. I think having like a breath work practice that you can do multiple times a week or daily or something like that, I think that allows for a really important connection into to our bodies, to just kind of experience our bodies in a different way. And then you can incorporate that into your workouts, whether it's cardio or resistance training, just like that really mindful aspect of controlling your breath while you're doing an exercise. I think there's huge benefit to that.
Charlie, thank you so much. I really learned a lot, and I think
Awesome.
we need to meet more often just to remind ourselves of all this.
That would be so fun. Yeah.
And I know that you have a podcast and you also do
Yes.
consultations. If you don't mind, please telling us where
Yes.
people can find you and they can seek your consultation.
You bet.
If you have a website. And thank you
For
so
sure.
much.
I'll be sure to do that.
Tell us,
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
where
This
can
was
we
a really
find
fun
you?
conversation. I'm most active on Instagram, and it's just, my handle is just my first and last name at Charlie Cates. That's where you're going to find me most active. I'm very responsive to direct messages and everything like that. As far as being able to listen to our podcast, our website, get in with our virtual workouts and everything, you can go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com, and that www does need to be there. Otherwise, you're going to go to an error page, and you can find everything there. Our podcast, our book, our virtual workout, library of on-demand workouts, everything like that. You can connect with us through there.
I saw that you have a really detailed site. I was just going through it. You have a lifetime membership. It's amazing. You have a book also. So your wife, she does similar training, or does she do something different for women? I also do pelvic rejuvenation for people.
Awesome.
And for women, especially. And, as you hit the menopause, you have to be lifted out of your pause. That's what I say. And
sure.
So I wanted to ask if she does that, or do you have any set of exercises where somebody joins and they can say, oh yeah, these are pelvic exercises?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we don't have anything that's specifically pelvic floor, but that's a huge area. That's for sure. And so my wife does work predominantly with women, but her specialty is not necessarily pelvic floor work. It's more, hey, I don't feel comfortable going to a gym, or I don't know what I should be doing to exercise without injuring myself. And so she helps guide them along those ways. Maybe they're having osteoporosis or different joint issues or things like that. She helps guide them through their exercise, but we don't have anything that's specifically pelvic floor.
I see. So maybe in future, that is one of your wife's,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much again for coming on. It's
Thank you.
super amazing that you are doing such great work.
Thank you so much. Yes, I appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
We'll see you around again,
You bet.
hopefully. Let's get on the schedule again. And
That would be awesome.
I'll also tag you on my TikTok. And if we have any
Sounds great.
questions, then you just answer them. All right.
You bet. Thank you.
Take
I really
care,
appreciate it.
and
All
Great
right.
talking to you. Bye-bye.
You as well. Have a great
My
one.
pleasure,
Thank
Charlie.
you.
See you.
We'll see you.